Thank you all, and welcome to the second session of today's talk. Actually, we uh, had planned for one resource person earlier, but actually, in the just before starting the workshop, that she committed, as she said, that she couldn't join us. So, on her behalf, I will be taking this session. So, before starting, if there are any, I would like to put my point that if you have any doubt at any point of time, we could discuss. You can stop me and we can discuss whatever doubts are there. So, we'll be discussing on automated diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy using retinal images. So, as we have seen in the morning class today that our Rangans are told about the retinal images. I will be just elaborating on those points. I will not go into the technical part much, so that everyone can understand whatever we are discussing. So I would like to keep it as simple as possible. So if you feel at any time that I'm going beyond your expectation or whatever, I am not keeping it simple, then you can stop me at that time. Then we'll again come back to basic things. So to start with retinal imaging or retinal image analysis, uh, so we would be discussing on these topics, that what is diabetes and what is IP physiology, and then we'll go for diabetic retinopathy, and then what are the various challenges we face, and what are the research opportunities that we can find in this platform, and then finally automated diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy. So before going into retinal analysis, I would like to know about what are your ideas about image and image processing. Uh, do you know image processing, or is it a term that you have never used? I'd just like to know your point of view. Then we'll continue. So, have you all gone through image processing, or have you ever tried image processing once? Have you tried image processing once, or have you used image processing? Okay, is there anyone who have never used image processing in their entire life? I hope there are not a single person who have not used image processing, because starting from our childhood, we are doing image processing. I will show you a few points where we are using those. So what is an image? Image is nothing but a matrix. So before going to that digital part, let me show where we have been using image processing. So image processings were being used since our childhood. So whenever we used to draw things, we used to draw sceneries, we used to draw different images, we are doing image processing. If we start thinking, then you will find that whenever we are drawing an image or whenever we are coloring an image, then we are doing image processing. What is image processing? It is nothing but whatever we are perceiving. Whatever we are perceiving, we are presenting it in form of a picture or in form of an image. So, for example, as in this drawing, we can see there are different shades. So we observe different shades in whenever we see a picture or see a view. We always observe different. Always observe different shades. So that accordingly we put on colors, we put on different shades to our images. So this is how we all are doing image processing since our childhood. Then next, what we learned is after these drawing concepts, we go for learning different color combinations. So different color combinations are like when we combine red with green, green with blue, what happens? So those are nothing but concepts of image processing. So that is what we deal in case of the image processing as a research or image processing as a hobby. So these are what we have learned in our childhood. But in case of if we go for present stage, every one of us have, you can move to the right hand side diagram. Most of us have done this type of calibrations or calculations, or we have done this type of modifications. Whenever we go for uploading any image or uploading any profile for pictures, we always go for editing them beforehand. So what is editing? Editing is nothing but just image processing. So in image processing, what we do, we just change the intensities or change the informations of the images, and accordingly it will change. So this platform is Photoshop. So in our discussions also, I will discuss with Photoshop platforms in the second half. When we go for the this hands-on sessions. So to have a better idea, we'll discuss with the Photoshop what we actually do and how it is related to our MATLAB, and how what is the similarity between them. So now to go into image processing, what we do actually in research areas, we go for initially enhancement of images. So for example, as we can see this image, we can hardly identify or see the details, but if you go for enhancing the image, we can see the whole picture. Then we go for image segmentation. For example, in this image, we can go for counting the number of cars. Then it will become an automated system. And if the system learns it, then we can go for detecting CAD systems. Then similarly, in case of our this medical images, we can go for by using image processing techniques. So these image processings are required for mainly digitization, printing, storing, picture enhancement, restoration, then segmentation in order to facilitate machine vision, and finally we go for compression for easy transmission and broadcast. So for an example, whenever we are having a picture, whenever we take a picture from our mobile phones, the size of that picture lies within the range of MBs. That means you're starting from 2 MB to 5 MB, or in particularly in few updated cameras, we have it up to 10 MBs. But whenever we upload that photo and download it from that website, the size get decreased. The size comes in the range of kilobytes. So how that happens? That means whenever we're uploading the image, our images are getting compressed. And what is compression? Compression means we are just reducing the size. So reducing the size means we are losing some information. That information is lost in terms of whatever information is not required or whatever information is not important. Similarly, in case of medical images, we have to go for higher amount of compressions. So in those cases, what we do, we normally eliminate the portions which are not our requirements. For example, suppose if in this image the chest portion is our region of interest, then we'll try to remove the remaining portion information. So in that way, we can have a image of lesser size. So that is why we go for various compression techniques, and this helps in our broadcast and transmissions. So we can go for consulting various doctors who are not even available in our nearby locality, or may not be available in our country also. So we can consult them by using telemedicine. So image processing helps us to do all these processes. So now coming back to medical images. So same image processing when we go for in analysis of medical images, then it is called as medical image analysis. So we go for various image analysis like X-ray images, MRI images, fundus images, then ultrasound images, and cancer cell images, and there are many more. I have just picked out these 5 examples. So we will be discussing today on fundus images. How do we analyze on fundus images or retinal images mainly? So what is retinal image or what is diabetic retinopathy? So every one of us are aware of what is diabetes mellitus, and maybe most of us are already having this diabetes. And in a calculation from 2019, people have found that 263 million people had diabetes worldwide, and it is almost 50%, 50% in male and females, and it is in 8.8% in the adult population. And in that year, it was found that 4.2 million deaths have been occurred due to diabetes. So, as also this has become a like part of our life due to our lifestyles, due to our change in whatever way we live in. So we are all of us are getting prone to diabetes. So that is why it is becoming common this common disease. So it has various effects, and it not only affect our sugar level. So if what is diabetes, if I want to explain, the cause of diabetes is whenever our amount of pancreas secretion gets reduced, then what happens is the blood sugar level increases. That means the sugar that is produced through our metabolism doesn't go to our cells. So if it doesn't go to our cells, then it remains in our blood vessels. So the blood sugar level increases. So that shows effect in various other organs. So starting with our nephropathy, then neuropathy, and then finally retinopathy. That means in our kidneys it affects, and also in our eyes. So we'll be discussing mainly what does diabetes affect. Diabetes have an effect in our eyes. So to start with, what is a retina? Retina is the inner layer of our eye where image formation takes place. So whenever a light enters in our eye, it falls over the retina, and from retina it moves towards our brain through the axon and dendrite cells. So where the light energy is converted into electrical energy, and we perceive whatever we see. So now if there is any abnormality over the retina, or if there are any deformation of the retina, then our vision gets affected. So if we study whatever is the effect on our retina, then it is called as retinopathy. So to study retina, we have various options. Out of those, most commonly or popularly used options are fundus image and OCT images. In fundus image, we directly image the retina through our through a 2D camera, and it is like taking images. It is a microscopic camera which contains or which behaves as a normal camera only, and it takes the photo of our retinal surface. So as you can see on the right hand side, this is the fundus image which shows a retinal image. The retina is obviously more than this size, but for our requirement, the camera aperture would give us accordingly as per our requirement whatever size we require for our retina for analysis. And next analysis is done with respect to optical coherence tomography images or OCT images. In OCT images, we go for scanning the retinal layers. In this, the camera takes the image of our inner layers of our retina. So if there are any deformity or if there are any problems with our inner layers, then that can be identified in OCT images. For example, if there are abnormalities present over our retina surface, then that we can detect in fundus image. But if the retina starts affecting or starts getting deformated from the inner layer, then that can only be detected using OCT images. So now what is diabetic retinopathy? As you can see on the left hand side, this is a normal image, and then on right hand side we can see the image gets distorted. So whenever a person is having retinopathy, his vision gets blurred. So the person used to see in this format. Now in order to identify if a person is having retinopathy or not by this type of deformations, then if how much his retina is affected, that means a person starts observing this type of changes at his higher stage only. At earlier stage, the vision remains normal. So that is why nowadays people used to say, or doctors used to say that go for an dilated eye exam in every 1 year. That means within a year we must go for a dilated eye exam. Now, what is dilated eye exam? I will come in the next slide. Now, in the same image 2, the image gets blurred. There is one more image issue that arises due to the effect in our macula. As we have seen in the fundus image, this region, as you can see the mouse pointer, the macula region, this macula region, if there is any abnormality which falls over this macular region or which is covering this macular region, it will affect our central vision. Why it is affecting our central vision? Because whenever light comes and falls over our retina, it falls over the macula only. So if there is any abnormality, the light falling over macula will get blocked, and that blocked information will go to our brain, and we will be observing situations like this. And that is given in the third case. That means we will be able to see the watch, see the alarm, see the clock, but we will not be able to guess the time. So to differentiate about normal retina and diabetic retina, so as you can see these two images, the left hand side is a normal retina and right hand side is a diabetic retina. Now how this affect, I have put a video here for demonstration. So before going into these details, or we can directly understand whatever is there by watching this video. Just go through.
Diabetic retinopathy during a comprehensive dilated eye exam. The patient receives special eye drops that dilate the pupils. The pupils open wide, allowing the doctor to see the back of the eye clearly. When eyes are dilated, the doctor can clearly see the retina, optic nerve, and the macula. Early diabetic retinopathy starts with small red dots called microaneurysms and can progress to leaking blood vessels, causing thickening of the retina and blurring of vision, or new blood vessel growth that can bleed and cause blindness. If you have diabetes, you are at risk for diabetic retinopathy. Dilation enables doctors to get a better view of the back of the eye.
So I hope you have understood what is dilated eye exam and how doctors check the abnormalities. Now in this image, I hope it is already clear, but still I will explain what is how we get affected. So whenever the insulin secretion stops, the amount of glucose level increases in our blood vessels. So that will lead to deficiency of oxygen in our blood vessels. So to increase the requirement or fulfill the requirement of oxygen supply, what the blood vessel does, blood vessel starts starts thinning out around. That means the blood vessel, there will be small perforations which grow over our blood vessels, and that leads to microaneurysms. So at higher stages, this microaneurysms burst, and all the bloods come over the retinal surface. And when this blood over our retina dries out, then it causes hemorrhages, and along with this blood, lipid and protein structures also fall over our retina. So this creates exudates. So as you can see on the right hand side, these bright lesions represents the exudates, and these dark regions represent the hemorrhages or the microaneurysms. So when our retina is having this type of anomalies or this type of abnormalities falling over it, then we cannot identify, or we cannot judge an image whenever this depositions block our vision. So that is why, in order to identify macular edema or in order to identify diabetic retinopathy, we have to go for dilated eye exams. So now moving on to diabetic retinopathy. As you can see, as I have told already, that in OCT images we check the layers of our retina. Now, this is an example showing that on the left hand side, this is a fundus image where we can see the fundus image is getting affected, or the retina is getting affected due to diabetes, and there are deposition of blood over our retina. But if we see the corresponding OCT images, as you can see, there are high amount of cysts present over the beneath the retina. So this is the retinal top layer. So whenever we image, or whenever we see a fundus image, we see from the top only. So this layer only we see in case of our fundus image, but in case of OCT image, as we have seen, that the cyst present in the retina, or the deposition of the liquids or blood depositions, has created a high amount of cyst here. So now, in order to identify them, the proper way is to analyze the OCT images. So that is why, along with fundus image, the ophthalmologist suggest for taking OCT images also. Now, types of diabetic retinopathy. It means how diabetic retinopathy will affect our retina. So various stages are background retinopathy, then pre-proliferative retinopathy. In background retinopathy, the microaneurysm starts appearing. In pre-proliferative diabetic retinopathy, the venous bleeding starts, then interretinal microvascular abnormalities are present, then multiple blot hemorrhages, that means higher amount of deposition of blood occurs, then cotton spot and hard exudate starts appearing. Then diabetic maculopathy is also a part of pre-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. In diabetic maculopathy, the same whatever we observe in pre-proliferative diabetic retinopathy is present in the macular region. For example, as you can see in the image D, the macular region is getting affected by the presence of hemorrhages. So when the abnormalities involve the macular region, it is called diabetic maculopathy. Then next, in proliferative diabetic retinopathy, neovascularization occurs. So what is neovascularization? New blood vessels form from our existing blood vessels of our retina. So these new blood vessels are very delicate and they can rupture easily. So with increased oxygen demand, these small blood vessels rupture easily and they cause tremendous amount of blood leakage. And in worst case scenario, this neovascularization occurs in the vitreous of our eye. So as we know, vitreous is the part which is lying between the retina and our front of our eye. So if these blood vessels, these small blood vessels enter the vitreous and they burst over there, then the whole vitreous region gets filled with blood vessels, or filled with this blood. depositions. So this blood deposition will totally block the block our vision, and the person or the patient will become blind. So that is why proliferative diabetic retinopathy stage is called as the last stage of diabetic retinopathy. So at this stage, the vision of that person gets affected highly. So now moving on to diabetic maculopathy. Diabetic maculopathy is divided into three parts: mild, moderate, and severe. As you can see in the diagram, there are three concentric circles drawn. If any abnormalities are present in the outer circle, then it is called as mild diabetic maculopathy. If it is present in the middle circle, then it is called moderate. And if it is present in the innermost circle, then it is called as severe case. So in case of diabetic maculopathy, we can identify the stages by observing the abnormalities in these concentric circles. And these concentric circles are formed with respect to the diameter of the optic disc. As you can see, this represents the optic disc, and the diameter of this optic disc is used for calculating these three regions. So the outer, so they are divided into mild, moderate, and severe depending on the optic disc diameter regions. So for example, the outer region is at 2 optic disc diameter, middle region is at 1 optic disc diameter, and then inner region is at 1/3 of optic disc diameter. So by using this calculation, we can determine the stage of diabetic maculopathy. And as I have already told that if diabetic maculopathy is involved during the diabetic retinopathy or during diabetes, the person is very much prone to have vision loss. Now coming to the research challenges. So I hope up to this is clear. If there is any doubt, then we can discuss. Yes, please.
Yeah. So can you please repeat the last slide once, please? Actually, I was getting disconnected.
Okay, diabetic maculopathy. This
yes,
one.
sir.
Okay. So yeah, so this diabetic maculopathy is a part of diabetic retinopathy when the abnormalities fall over our macular region or in the neighborhood of our macular region. So to identify in which stage of maculopathy the person is suffering, we can identify that by observing these three concentric circles. So we form these three concentric circles with respect to the optic disc diameter. So optic disc, this is our optic disc. So whatever optic disc diameter is present here, so we will calculate this circle with respect to that. So for example, the outer layer is at 2 optic disc diameter, then the middle circle is at 1 optic disc diameter, and the inner circle is at 1/3 of optic disc diameter. So if any abnormality lies in the outer circle or outer this outer ring, then it is called as mild. If it is in the middle ring, then it is called as moderate, and if it is inside the inner circle, then it is called as severe. And if it covers the foveal region, the person becomes blind. Fovea is found at the center of macula.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So are there any more doubts? Anything on diabetic retinopathy, or you can also ask anything if there is anything on image processing also. So I'll move on to next research challenges, or what could be the difficulties faced when we go for observing the retinal images. So first I will discuss on fundus images, then I will give insights to OCT images. So for diabetic retinopathy, our requirement is for analyzing diabetic retinopathy, we go for bright lesion detections and dark lesion detections, and to do that we have to go for optic disc detection. Bright lesion or dark lesion means these bright regions, these bright depositions that are falling over our retina, that is called as bright lesions, and these dark regions or this deposition of blood in form of microaneurysm and hemorrhages are called dark lesions. So detection of these are important for analyzing where the retina is affected or how much the retina is getting affected. Next is, while obtaining this, there is a issue that the optic disc also appears similar to the exudate structure, and also the macular region is similar to the these dark lesion structures or dark lesion intensities. So in order to identify this detection or detection of these lesions, we have to suppress the optic disc and macular regions so that they do not offer any hindrances during the detection process. Similarly, most of the researchers also go for removing the blood vessels or masking the blood vessels so that the detection gets proper. Then once the detection of optic discs and bright and dark lesions are done, then we go for diabetic retinopathy grading. So how do we grade? The grading is done with respect to these calculations. For example, if it will be grade 0 if we have 0 microaneurysms or 0 hemorrhages present, and obviously if there are no microaneurysms or hemorrhages or there are no dark lesions, there are hardly any chance of getting any bright lesions. Next, grade 1 will be if we have microaneurysm, numbers of microaneurysms starting from 0 to 5 and hemorrhage is 0, then it is called as grade 1. Similarly, grade 2 from 5 to 15 or hemorrhages from 0 to 5 and there is no neovascularization present. Then grade 3 or proliferative diabetic retinopathy is present when we have greater than microaneurysm of 15, greater than hemorrhages of 5 numbers, and we have neovascularization. If any one of them are present, then we go for naming or grading the stage of retinopathy as grade 3 or proliferative retinopathy. So these are the grading of diabetic retinopathy. Similarly, we go for diabetic maculopathy, as I have already mentioned about this concentric circles. So here the requirements are to identify the fovea detection, because depending on our effect of these lesions in the foveal neighborhood, we'll go for identifying the maculopathy. So that is why fovea detection is must here. Then dark and bright lesion detection are to be done. Then to identify how many of these lesions or what are the effects of these lesions over the fundus region or fovea region. So to do that, we go for macular edema grading. So as I have told you, mild stage is this we have already discussed. The mild stage is within 1 optic disc to 2 optic disc diameter difference. That means the last ring. Then the moderate is from 1/3 optic disc to 1 optic disc diameter. That means from this portion to this portion to the second ring. And the severe case is within 1/3 of optic disc diameter. That means the inner circle. So this is the grading of diabetic maculopathy. Now, for OCT analysis, what we normally go for, so first requirement is to remove the speckle noise. As you can see, there are high or huge amount of noises present in this image. So in order to identify OCT images, or in order to identify the changes in OCT images, we need to identify the layers. So what layers or what is the position of those layers? So in this detection process, this noise will play a hindrance. So that is why we have to remove this noise before going for processing OCT images. So that is why we go for speckle noise removal. Then next is diabetic maculopathy detection. So for identifying diabetic maculopathy, we have to identify the uppermost and lowermost layer of the OCT image, which is called as ILM and RPE. So we have to identify the ILM and RPE layer and we have to find the thickness between them. So in normal case, the thickness is in normal case the thickness lies from 100 to 150. Okay. So in normal cases, the macular region lies within 100 and the outer regions are lying within 150 range. And in case of diabetic maculopathy, the thickness gets increased. So by identifying the amount of thickness, we can go for detection of diabetic maculopathy. Then once the thickness is determined, then we go for identification of the cyst present. So these are the cysts present. So how the cysts are being formed? So whenever there are neovascularization, the blood vessels grow, the new blood vessels or the thin blood vessels grow. Now these blood vessels may also grow inside the retinal layer. So like they can go for the vitreous region. Similarly, they can also go inside the retinal layer and they may burst inside the retinal layer. So whenever they burst inside our retinal layers, then those depositions, those leakage of those leakage of blood cells would create this cyst. So this cyst will lead to increase the thickness of the retina, and at higher cases or at higher stages of diabetic retinopathy, the retinal detachment occurs. So this can be identified using OCT analysis. Now coming to different challenges. So first let us go for the clinical challenges what we have. So now, as I have already mentioned, that we must go for an annual eye examination even if we are not having any diabetes or even if we are not having any eye related disease, but we may definitely go for an annual eye examination. And whoever is having any wearing any spectacles or having any difficulty with their vision or any problem with reading or observing objects, they definitely have to go for annual eye examination. Now, if every one of us go for annual eye examination, then if we go for counting the numbers, then with respect to that, the numbers of doctors are very less. So in an analysis, the doctor to patient ratio was found for diabetes at a ratio of 1:72,000. Now this varies from 72,000 to 1 lakh. So that means one doctor is one doctor is working against 1 lakh patients. So it is a very smaller ratio, and using this, it is not sufficient for the doctor or not effective for the doctor to analyze so much of patients. So in order to help the doctors, we go for these automated techniques. So although the automated analysis or CAD system doesn't provide any diagnosis or doesn't provide any solutions, but it can at least give the doctors time so that they can go for the affected patients earlier, then instead of checking all the patients. Then if only the doctors are going for analyzing the patients, then there is a chance of getting human error, because due to fatigue or due to providing higher amount of time in screening the patients, then there may be a possibility of getting mistakes. So that is why a requirement of these CAD systems are very much essential. So that is why we move for automated screening programs. So most of us who have already used these OCT images, they might have seen that one report comes out with the OCT analysis. So that report shows what is the thickness of the retinal layers, what is the effect of, is there any effect of any issues with the retinal layer. So those are mentioned in that machine. So that is used by the doctors as a primary report, and then they go for the remaining screening. So like this automated screening program helps us to go for better diagnosis. Now, moving into imaging challenges. So there are various, while making these automated programs, there are various challenges that we face with various images. So there are various possibilities that due to camera error or due to the movement of the patient or due to the human error of the cameraman or the doctor or the screening person, there might be images in which we don't apply the algorithms, or the algorithms will not work in all the images. So we have to identify those images and we have to rectify those images before working on the algorithms. So which was also mentioned by the first speaker today, that we have to go for pre-processing of the images, then only the algorithm performs better. So for example, the various imaging challenges are represented here. For example, first one is the bright boundary. So due to the camera flash, there may be a chance of having a bright boundary region. So if this bright boundary intensity is similar to the intensity of optic disc or the bright lesions, then there is a possibility that this boundary will get detected as a abnormality. So, if whenever we have these bright boundaries, the requirement is to remove these boundaries first, bright regions first, or to suppress them or to mask them. Next is background suppression. So in the second image, as you can see, this region is not illuminated properly. That means this region is dark. So if background suppression occurs, then also we cannot identify the images, or we cannot segment out the images. So for example, in this image, as we can see, the macula region is not at all identified, or is not even visible properly. So if we cannot identify it with our normal eyes, then definitely the algorithm may have difficulties in identification of this region. Then next is improper positioning. Improper positioning occurs when the patient is moving his or her eye during the imaging process. So due to that also, if the image is not proper, then we cannot go for the analysis. Then next is improper focusing. If the focus is not proper, then also the image cannot be taken for analysis. So if these are few examples, so if these are observed in the images, so we have to either rectify them, or if they cannot be rectified, then we have to eliminate them. Next is, in order to remove these challenges, what we can do for removing the bright boundary, we can go for image processing simple tools. As you can see, in the first image there was a bright boundary, but in the last image, third image, we can see the bright boundary gets eliminated. Then similarly, in the fourth image, you can see the background. If we remove the background information, the foreground information also gets removed. Then for the case where the illumination was not proper, and the last case that we have discussed here, improper focusing, in that case, if we go for eliminating those regions, as you can see, most of the required information is lost. So this type of images are eliminated from analysis. Now, solutions are proper camera focusing, then field of proper camera focusing, and removing the dust particles which may fall over the camera lens. Then field of view localization. Field of view means the region which is required. So that means the field of, as we can see this second image, this is called as the field of view. Here the required information is only kept. That means our required information is the retinal image, not the background. So that is why we are keeping only this field of view information. So that is why field of view localization would help in removing the unwanted regions. Then bright boundary subtraction, as we already discussed. Then eliminating image with less information. For example, these informations on the right hand side images. And various algorithms like color normalization, top hat transformations can be used for this pre-processing analysis. So in case of imaging challenges that we observe in case of OCT images, is first requirement is the stable setup. Stable setup means if the patient is not properly sitting, or if the patient is having or shaking his head, then the imaging is not proper. So as you can see on the right hand side, the image gets more blurred than on the left hand side. Obviously the noise is present, but due to the shaky environment, the noises gets increased on the right hand side image. So that is why we have to go for a stable setup, and these noises which are already a part of the image, they have to be eliminated. So multiplicative noise filters are to be used. Now multiplicative, what is multiplicative noise? So now most of us may already know. Still I will try to explain what is multiplicative noise. So whenever we have a noise, for example, if we are suppose I am giving this talk, I am using a microphone. That microphone is not only picking up my voice, it is also picking up the voice that is coming from the background. That is also picking up the voice of the fan that is moving. It is also picking up the voices from the construction work that is going nearby my setup. So these are, most of them are additive in nature. That means they are added to the voice signal. So similarly, whenever we have added information to our images or added noise information to our images, they can be eliminated easily by subtracting them. We can eliminate them by simply subtracting them from the original image. But if the noise is multiplicative in nature, that means it is in A into B format, then we cannot go for subtracting the noise. So in that case, to remove these multiplicative noises, we go for working in a different domain. For example, if you go for operating in logarithmic domain, then multiplication in logarithmic becomes plus. That means log of mn becomes log of m plus log of n. So in that case, we can separate out the noise region. So once the noise is getting removed, then we can go for anti-log and get back the original image. So these type of multiplicative noise are present in the image. So we can make a setup so that we can build an algorithm which will remove this multiplicative noise. So these are the imaging challenges that we face in case of fundus image or OCT images. Now coming to the signal processing challenges which we find in case of obtaining or detecting optic disc or fovea or bright lesion and dark lesion. So they are presented here. So let us start from optic disc. So for optic disc detection, the main problem is the similar intensity with the exudates. As you can see here, I hope I can do this. Okay. So as you can see here, the exudates portion and the optic disc region have similar intensity and similar color. So if you go for algorithms of which will identify with respect to intensity or with respect to color, then it is hard to identify which one is exudate and which one is optic disc. So this is the main challenge that we face in case of optic disc identification. Next is the presence of peripapillary atrophy. That means, and while identifying the optic disc, suppose we have identified or segmented out the optic disc from the exudates region. So while identifying the optic disc, there might be a region or there might be a portion in the optic disc which will be which is not actually a part of the optic disc boundary. So for example, as you can see, I am not able to increase the size any further. As you can see here, this portion, this optic disc should be in shape of the optic disc should be elliptical in nature, but or round in nature. But in this case, you can see there are it is not properly elliptical. So there are some regions which are also bright in the neighborhood of optic disc. Those are nothing but called as peripapillary atrophy. So we have to identify or we have to separate the optic disc from them also. So that is the main challenge that lies in optic disc detection. Then error due to severe retinopathy cases. Severe retinopathy cases means, as you can see in this image, these regions of exudates are very bright in nature and they are brighter than the optic disc. Normally in a retina, the optic disc is the brightest region. But in severe cases, if there are abnormalities which are more brighter than optic disc, then the detection of optic disc becomes difficult. And if these exudates or abnormalities fall over the optic disc region, then also the detection of optic disc becomes difficult. So these are the challenges for detection of optic disc. Next, as you can see, there are few examples shown where the optic disc is to be detected in the plus sign or the actual detection is in the green color, but the detected portions are in the, as mentioned, in the red color, in the cross signs. The optic disc got detected. So this is due to the fact that the optic disc intensity is similar to the exudates, or the error due to severe retinopathy cases. So this is optic disc detection challenges. Next comes challenges with respect to fovea detection. So for fovea detection, so as you can see here, see the lower images. So suppressed by background. For example, this image we have already discussed in case of preliminary requirement or the imaging challenges. So in this case, the phobia couldn't be identified because, as you can see, most of the background is consuming the information of the foreground, or the dark regions are present in the phobia region. So that is why phobia couldn't be identified. Then error in optic disc detection. Normally we identify phobia with respect to the geometrical relation or geometrical position of the optic disc. So if optic disc detection fails, then automatically phobia detection fails. Then phobia intensity, its variation and similarity. That means the phobia portion and the abnormalities, if they appear similar in intensity, then it becomes difficult to identify the phobia region, or the abnormalities get identified as phobia. For example, in the first image, as you can see, the phobia should be identified in this green portion, green region, but it is identified in the red region. Similarly, in the second case, it should be identified in this region as in the plus this in this green region. The phobia should be identified, but it is getting identified on the on an outer region. And this is also due to the severe maculopathy case. That means if the macula itself gets covered by abnormalities, then it is not possible to identify the macula until and unless we are using any mathematical tool or any forming any kind of shape which will go for identifying the phobia. So these are the challenges in phobia detection. Next, coming to bright lesion detection. So as bright regions provide difficulty in identifying the optic disc, similarly, one second, okay. Okay, now as you can see, as exudates or bright lesions provide difficulty in identifying the optic disc, similarly optic disc also provide hindrance in identification of the hard exudates or exudates. So the the similar intensity pixels of optic disc and cottonwool spot, which is not exudates, they all, these two having similar intensity pixels, they offer hindrance in identification of exudates. Similarly, healthy fundus image. So what happens in case of healthy fundus image? In healthy fundus image, there are bright regions. For example, in case of if your eyes are healthy, then there will be a bright region present near the macular region, or it will be present near the blood vessel region. So those bright regions in grayscale image will show similarity with the exudates. So even if the person is healthy or the retina is healthy, the algorithm may detect that the person is having some issues with the retinal image. So that is why the second challenge lies in our healthy fundus images, where the image should be identified as normal image or healthy image, but it will be identified as diseased image. Now, in case of dark lesions, similar to our macular detection or phobia detection, the dark lesions are getting affected by the presence of macula. Obviously, it will be vice versa. If dark lesions are affecting the detection of macula, the detection of dark lesion will also get affected by the presence of macula or fovea. And also the blood vessels. The blood vessels appear same in color. Blood vessels, macular regions are appearing same in intensity with this hemorrhages or microaneurysms, so they offer hindrance in detection. So these are the challenges which we face while going for processing or constructing any algorithm for detection of fundus images. Now coming to OCT images. In case of OCT images, first requirement is the noise removal. So challenge lies in removal of noise properly. So whatever algorithms are present, most of the algorithms will definitely remove the noise, but while removing the noise, it will also remove the information of the retinal layers. So if the information of retinal layers are degraded or removed, then the algorithm will not work properly, which will be identifying the retinal layers. So that is why while removing the noise, it should be made clear that it doesn't affect the retinal layers. Next is the variational intensity of the edges while identifying the layers. The next challenge is variational intensity of the edges. That means if we are applying any algorithm, then obviously we will be setting a threshold. So that threshold will work as either it will detect whatever values are above the threshold, or it will detect whatever values are below the threshold. But if the intensity of these layers are variational, that means the intensity of these layers are not similar. That means the layer at this region is having different value than the layer at this region, then obviously there will be discontinuity in detection. So that is why variation of intensity should be kept in mind, and the algorithm should be made in that way. Then third one is detection of cyst. Now, in case of detection of cyst, there might be some false positive detection which may occur, and in most of the cases, due to the presence of the noises, the number of false positives get increased at higher rate. So that is why we have to go for properly removal of the noise. So these are the signal processing challenges that we observe in case of OCT images. So are there any doubts up to this point? Anything you want to ask, or anything you didn't understood? Is there anything? I will repeat wherever it is required. Is there any doubts up to this point? Is it understood what is diabetic retinopathy? We have discussed what is diabetic retinopathy, what is diabetic maculopathy, different stages, how it affects our eye. Next, we have discussed what are the imaging techniques that are available for identification, and how or what are the difficulties we face during identification. We are still not moving to how we identify. We have discussed up to what are the problems that we face during identification. So is it clear up to this? Or are there any doubts? If there is anything, if there anything is there, then I will. If you want me to repeat, then I will explain. Okay, now coming to automated diagnosis. So before going to automated diagnosis, let me explain what image processing we normally do. Okay, see. So this is an image. So image is nothing but a matrix. A two-dimensional matrix which contains information that most of us already know. So I am explaining this so that the detection process gets easier to understand. So, for example, this is an image. This is the our GOST building. So, as you can see, as I have told, this is a matrix. So, if I increase the or increase, if I increase the this. Okay, whenever I zoom in the image, as you can see, you can observe there are box-like structures. I hope you have observed these box-like structures. Okay, so these are nothing but matrix format. So these matrix contain the information of the image. So that means here are nothing but we have. This is nothing but a matrix where each matrix contain information of the intensity. So for example, if I consider this is the matrix in this region, then this will have some value, this will also have some value, this region will have some value. So whenever we are going for analysis or processing any image, we are just changing these values. For example, this region is darker in color and this region is brighter in color. So if we check the intensity values, or if we check the values present here, then if I go for one second, taking out the information here, so if we see, okay, it can be seen here. So this white color is representing, as you can see, in red, green and blue, 245, 245, 245. These are the values. So this white region is representing, or the matrix here is representing values 245. That means in this matrix, the value present here is 245. Now, if I want to make this region dark, then I have to change this value or decrease this value. So while decreasing this value, if we change this value to suppose 0, then we'll get black. Now, about color, whenever we are going for color image, then the color image normally is having 3 planes, 3 such plane or 3 such matrix. That means if this is our first matrix, then in color image we have 3 such planes, 3 such matrix, and these are nothing but RGB. R for red, green, and this one is your blue. So these informations are present in this image, and whenever we are going for analyzing anything or processing anything, we are just changing these values. So this will again discuss in the hands-on sessions. So whenever we are manipulating any image, retinal image or any image, then we are doing nothing, just we are changing these informations, changing the matrix values. So if you consider image as a matrix, then everything becomes easy. So if we want to increase the brightness of any image, then we simply increase the value. For example, if the intensity of the region is suppose 100, so this values lie in between, these values lies from 0 to 255. We cannot get any value above that. So the range is from 0 to 255. So if an image is dark, that means it is at a lower region. That means it will be having values like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like that. If you want to increase the brightness of that image, then we simply add values to them. So for example, if I want to increase the brightness of this image, then I will simply add to the matrix few values, or if I'll put a simple constant values. So that is what all the softwares are doing. Whenever we are applying any brightness increasing software or intensity changing software, that is doing nothing but just increasing the or changing the values of the matrix. So that is how we go for processing any image. So similar operation we normally do in case of our retinal images. So for automated diagnosis, let us move on. So these are the databases which are available, and out of this, the last one is the number 9 and number 7 are local database, which I have gathered from Guwahati only, 2 hospitals. Then remaining are the databases which are present online, and these are standard databases. As sir was mentioning in the morning, showing few images from the drive image, this was the first database or oldest database in this retinal image analysis, and currently there are many more databases present over the internet. So for example, this HRF or high resolution fundus database contains HD images of the fundus. So like this, we can go for obtaining or processing various images from online. Next, coming to the process, how to identify or how to detect or how to analyze the or process the algorithms. So for requirement, our first requirement is acquiring input images. Then it can be either fundus image or OCT images. If it is fundus images, we go for fovea localization. We go for detection of lesions. Then we go for classification. This is done in case of diabetic maculopathy. I'm discussing the diabetic maculopathy, not retinopathy. So similarly, for diabetic maculopathy analysis using OCT images, we go for OCT image, then removal of noise using OCT images, then diabetic maculopathy detection by detecting the layers, then identification of the cyst. Then these two will provide finally diabetic maculopathy analysis report, which will help the doctor to concentrate more on patients who are having affected by this disease. Now, in this direction, first step is optic disc localization. So for optic disc localization, we can directly go for detecting the brightest region, but in case of presence of exudates, we cannot take that risk because exudates may get identified as optic disc. So in order to eliminate that, we normally go for identification of region of interest containing optic disc. So region of interest containing optic disc can be identified by using relation of blood vessels. That means, as you can see, the blood vessels originate from the optic disc. So using this property, we can identify the region of interest containing the optic disc. Now, once the region of interest is getting identified, the highest or brightest region in the optic disc region of interest can be identified, and which will be nothing but the optic disc only. So using this process, people are identifying or detecting optic disc. Now, for identifying optic disc in region of interest, there are various algorithms which will be using intensity property, where we can use size property. That means we can identify the shape of the optic disc, or we can search for the shape in that region of interest. We can go for color property, we can go for template searching, etc. Now, motivation of optic disc localization is for identification of fovea detection, because detecting the optic disc diameter only, we can go for diabetic maculopathy analysis, and also fovea lies. Fovea can be identified with the relation of optic disc, so that is why detection of optic disc is necessary. Next, it supports DM classification. As I have already told, the optic disc size can be is used for identifying these concentric circles. Then efficient exudates detection is also helps in efficient exudates detection. Only when we can, if we detect the optic disc and mask the optic disc properly, then only efficient exudates detection will take place. So these are the motivation for optic disc localization. Now moving on to fovea detection, similar to optic disc, fovea can also be identified using region of interest. Now region of interest containing fovea can be identified using geometrical relation of optic disc. As you can see, fovea lies temporal, or macula lies temporal to optic disc at a distance of 2 optic disc diameter. So using this property, we can identify the region containing the fovea, and in that region of interest, we can identify or detect the fovea using various properties of fovea. For example, template searching, appearance, or intensity properties. Now, in fovea localization, our prerequisite is optic disc detection or blood vessel detection. Now, as we can see, the blood vessel relation of geometrical relation of macula or fovea is similar with the blood vessel also. The origin of blood vessel and the original optic disc is same. So we can also relate the geometrical relationship of blood vessel. So by detecting blood vessels also, we can go for identifying the optic retina foveal region. Now moving on to the motivation. So fovea identification assists the diabetic maculopathy classification. Now it will be better if you go for detection of fovea without any relation of or without getting dependent on optic disc detection, because if optic disc detection fails, then then obviously the detection of fovea will fail, and if detection of fovea fails, then the analysis or the grading of diabetic maculopathy will fail. Then efficiency in pathogenic cases, that means next motivation would be, or next challenge would be, identifying the macula if there are abnormalities present near the macula region, because they might get identified as macula. So these are the challenges for phobia localization. Now, one property that we can use in phobia localization is that, as you can see, the blood vessels originate from the optic disc region, and when the blood vessels grow, it moves towards the macular region, and by the end, when the blood vessels may cross or may appear or may reach the macular region, the growth of the retina gets complete. So that means the blood vessels are not present in the macular region. So using this property also, we can detect macula. So next, coming to bright lesion detection. For bright lesion detections, motivation is to assess diabetic maculopathy classification. Then while identifying, the requirement is eliminating the other bright regions, which are optic disc, which are macular reflections or retinal reflections. As you can see here in the image, this is a normal image, but it is having few reflections. As you can see, these are blood vessel reflections and these are macular reflections, but they may appear as abnormalities if we do not eliminate them. Although the image is a healthy one, but we are having these abnormalities. Okay. Now, there are various methods, direct methods or indirect methods in case of unsupervised learning, or in supervised learning, we have direct detection or generation of features, or we can segment out a particular region and then go for segmenting or then go for identifying of the features. So there are various methods available. I will not go into those details. Now, there are difficulties, the difficulties that we may face during these detection processes or this supervised or unsupervised learning that let us discuss on that. So for methodological causes, that means methodologically where we find difficulties. That means in age detection may yield noisy results. Age detection, whenever we apply various age detection techniques, there might be issues or there might be discontinuous ages found when we have variational boundaries. Then local scheme will detect maximum exudates, whereas global scheme will detect the brightest pixels only. Machine learning methods require extensive pre-processing, and in supervised learning, we require more amount of ground data. So that means leveling data should be higher, or the amount of data should be higher for supervised methods. So these are the methodological issues which may be faced during the analysis. The next, for dark lesion localization, the motivation is to identify or to identify the dark lesions for assisting diabetic maculopathy classification, and then eliminating blood vessel pixels. So blood vessel pixels mainly cause hindrance in detection of dark lesions. So if we go for eliminating or masking of these blood vessels, then the detection gets proper. Then similarly, there are methods of supervised and unsupervised, and methodological causes are similar to the bright lesion detections. Next, diabetic maculopathy analysis. So here the challenge lies in optic disc detection or optic disc diameter detection mainly, and phobia localization. If the optic disc diameter detection is not proper, then the concentric circles will not be in proper position. Then if the phobia location is not proper, then obviously the analysis will not be proper, because phobia should lie at the center of the analysis. So if the phobia is not detected properly, then we cannot identify or we cannot go for grading of the diabetic maculopathy. So next, diabetic maculopathy analysis using OCT images. In OCT images, as I have mentioned, we have go for identifying of the layers. And our first requirement is filtering. So various filtering methods are available, like median filtering, bilateral anisotropic, nonlinear complex diffusion filtering, or statistical modeling filters. So using this, we can remove the noises. But in most of the cases, as I have already mentioned, the thickening of the blurring effects remove the information of the layers. So due to blurring or due to the filtering operation, the information gets removed of the edges, so the algorithm doesn't work properly. So the filtering should be proper. So that is why the motivation first point is eliminating speckle noise, preserving the edges. Not only eliminating speckle noise is the requirement, but preserving edges is the most required point here. Next, to detect the layers, despite of intensity variation, as I have mentioned, there are intensity variations. So keeping in mind that all the layers will have intensity variation, we have to go for proper layer detection method, which will be proper in case of identifying this intensity variations. Then, in order to identify the cyst, there are various threshold or active contour methods, but there are also the preliminary requirement or motivation or challenge lies in background normalization. So using this, we can identify the OCT layers. So, we have discussed about how to identify diabetic maculopathy using fundus and OCT images. Now, I have not gone through any method or any detailing because that might go beyond or may get boring for few participants. So that is why I have not discussed any methods here, but I have shown how the processing could be done or how the processing is done. So are there any queries or questions? I would definitely like to answer. Is there, there is one question, is there any textual information available in this report which can help early identification? In fundus image, we only, thank you for the question, ma'am. So in fundus image, we only get the image informations. And we do not get any text information there. But in case of OCT images, few text informations are available. So using those informations, we can identify what could be the problem, or we can go for consulting a doctor. So that is available in OCT images.
Thank you, sir. Sir, actually, the question is also this. Then how can we capture these images? Are there any sources from where we can download this data set?
Okay, but the sources I have already shown few examples of the databases. So
are these open databases, sir?
Yes, these are open databases. These are open databases. You can use these databases. This Drive, DirectDB0, DirectDB1, Messidor, HRF, EOPTHA, and this Retouch. These are available databases. So using this, you can go for analysis, and there are thousands of images available. So there is no problem, and there might be some new databases which I may not be aware of. So these databases are available.
Okay, so these are the databases wherein we can even find the textual information
Yes.
in the images.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, are there any more questions? Please ask if there is anything that is not understood. It can be from retinal images, or it may be from image processing point of view also. Are there any more doubts?
Yeah, I have one doubt, sir. Am I
Yes,
audible,
please.
sir?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, this during the COVID, we have found some certain eye infections of redness of eye during that corneal part and all. And some people said it is a keratitis. What is keratitis actually?
Keratitis means the depositions that lie over the retinal layers. It is not related to the retina. It is the abnormalities which form over the retinal layers. And keratitis can be removed. And obviously, it is not necessary that it is due to COVID cases. That is what I also asked Rangan sir the same question. that is it related to COVID? But
Non-COVID.
yes, it may be like that. The person due to COVID, the person might be feeling more this due to the illness. He might be feeling like that, or maybe due to some other reason, or the person might already be having cataract. So yeah, somehow he is trying to relate, or she is trying to relate with this COVID situation.
But
But the
is
thing
there,
is, I hope.
yeah, is there any K virus related keratitis like that? K virus.
And no, actually, I am not aware of.
Okay. Thank you. And I have one more doubt. Diabetes associated retinopathy. And one
Uh-huh.
of my colleagues has got this optical nerves. All of the optical nerves are seized. When we have taken to different hospitals, and they said it cannot be operated because of these nerves. All the nerves have been ocular nerves have been what do you call? These are closed very little, become thin because of the no blood circulation for the past 14 or 15 years.
Means there is a problem with the optical nerve that you were saying.
Yeah, that both eyes become blind. By birth, he was born with eyes, and after
Uh,
degree, he lost his eyes, both eyes. And
okay.
later on, when he got eye operation or something, then
The,
circulation to the blood is very less, and he's having diabetes also.
it is not necessary. It may be due to diabetes, but for optical nerve issues, it lies with glaucoma. Normally,
Okay,
the issue we face is due to the glaucoma region. In glaucoma, what happens? The change there is a change in the optic disc and optic disc cup ratio. That means optic disc cup starts to increase in size. So
okay,
due to that, the ratio decreases, and if the size becomes huge, then the peripheral vision of the person start decreasing.
okay.
That means the outside images or outside regions, the person will be gradually the vision will be start decreasing from the peripheral portion. That means
Okay.
he can see the whatever is in front of him, but he may not be able to see what is on right hand side or left hand side.
And
Like that, yes.
one more case, my grandmother is 68 years old. She is having glaucoma with diabetes associated. When
Uh-huh.
we approached the doctor, and they said it cannot be operable. They said it is difficult to operate.
Oh, yes, that means definitely the detection was done at a very later stage. At later
Oh,
stage, we cannot go for any analysis. Normally, in case of diabetic retinopathy, people go for this laser operations. So what they
okay.
do, they just try to eliminate the regions, whichever the abnormalities are present over the retina, those are getting eliminated. And mostly the person is to control his diabetes.
And
If the
the
diabetes is not controlled, again they will appear.
Okay, sir. And the models which you have used, 1D, 2D models presented by using signal processing and macular regions and fundus regions, and is
Uh-huh.
it neural network based or any other algorithms you have
Yeah,
used?
every algorithm can be applied. I have not mentioned anything here. When I have mentioned that about supervised or unsupervised learning, there
Yeah,
all the methods are applied.
structured learning, unstructured like
Yes,
training
yes,
in your.
everything. All the
And
methods are applied.
one more final doubt, sir. And recently, my mother got operated for a cataract removal, and she got previously she has only just poor vision, completely blind, and then after removing the lens and they placed a new lens, she got full vision 6 by 6 after
Uh-huh.
2. And like that, is there any chip-based lens that can see the far vision, like robotics, here use Iron Man and all this Avenger? It is
Uh-huh.
possible to place this lens so that we can visualize the far supervision.
Okay, so in that direction, yes, that definitely people might be working, but
Yeah,
I am not aware of if
the
they will
lens
achieve
only,
that.
just
Definitely.
replacement of the
Uh,
replacement of the lens. You fix the one lens, which is like
uh,
a camera lens, it will pixels. You have mentioned 1D pixel like that. The same
mhm.
pixels will be in the lens, so that it will far image it will capture. The
Yes, actually, our human lens is already very much equipped enough, and people are not able to
that is possible.
mimic that lens only, which is present in our eye.
In
It's already
future, it is
very
possible.
complex. Uh,
Yeah,
so whatever we can visualize is, for example, if you see the this moon, whatever we see that cannot be visualized by the camera. So
that
obviously our
sensor they have
eye is very much
uh, it will like
very much
1000
equipped.
100 resolutions. The sensor
Yes.
they have developed in a form of lens with using chips, and
Mhm.
we can I can see that far vision. I have seen, but every day you have to remove the lens and wash it, and again you have to place it like that 24 hours or 18 hours, 6 hours like that. Then again you
Okay.
have to place it in a box like some solution to preserve like that. I have seen not for continuous wearing of that lens will cause something irritation to the eye and all that problems.
Okay. Okay.
That is what that is why I'm asking, because of the AI we are dealing with the AI, artificial intelligence based chips and
Mhm.
biomedical engineering based devices. So in future, the medical ocular field and cataract and this retinal surgeries, they're having this. So without operation, they're just placing the lenses and they're placing remove and placing new lenses like that. So is this possible? The AI based chips and all. But I have another question. Genetically diseased, uh, what you call eye diseases cannot be modified. The cones ratio cannot be changed.
Yes. Yes.
The cones and rods which are present in the proportion, they cannot be changed. You can change the lens, but the proportion of the lens, cones and the rods cannot be changed and altered. It will
Yes.
be fixed from by birth. So that question also I asked recently in Dr. Madam. That's why I just
Yes.
thank you,
Yes.
sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. There are few questions in the comment box. In case of retinal image processing, on what basis we should filter to remove the noises? Okay, so for removing the noises, there are various filters available. So for choosing which filter to use, we have to go for the detection of SNR ratios or PSNR ratios, how much information is getting lost, or what is the effect of those filter on the post processings, that is to be checked. Once that is being done, then only we can identify that which filter is more useful. For example, in OCT image analysis, one filter called as bilateral filter and anisotropic filter. These filters are were used by most of the researchers. But in both of the filters, there are the issues of cartooning effect. That means the information of the edge just gets lost. So, although those are mostly used filters, but they don't preserve the edge information properly. So we have to check for them. Then only we can identify which filter is to be used. So obviously, and also if there are some literature available, or if there are some work has been done on some filters, or there are some results, then we can obviously try those filters. And it depends from the image that you are using. If we are using the similar image that the author of that paper have used, we may get the similar result, but it is not necessary it will work on other images. For example, whatever images that we will be getting online, the databases that I have shown, these are in most of these images are from abroad. That and the images of people from India will be definitely different from these images. So it is not necessary that whatever algorithm is working on these images, these databases, will work on the local images. So that is why whenever we go for analysis, we go for checking our algorithm on both standard database and also on the local databases or locally generated images. So I hope it is okay. Okay, next, how AI can be used for blind person. For blind person, there are different bio devices that can be formed. For example, in last class yesterday, one application was shown that of a smart stick, which can be used for the blind person. So like this, there can be various, or there are obviously various options are there, which can be explored. Can we get Indian? Okay, Pooja have asked one question. Can we get Indian EKD data from this database or only retinal data set? Oh, sorry, CKD. What is CKD?
Sir, chronic kidney disease.
Okay, so definitely if you check, there might be some database on for chronic kidney diseases also, but these databases contain only retinal images. There are no other images available in these databases.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, are there any more questions? Actually, my internet is not working properly, or otherwise I could have shown few examples with the Photoshop also. I will try to connect it in the second half. So I hope there are no questions. Okay, then thank you for your patient hearing. So we will be meeting at 2:20. So try to connect from 2:20 onwards. So we'll start the next class at 2:30. And try to, I have already put one update in the classroom for the programs. I most probably yesterday you have already got the files from the other speaker there who will be coming on the third session today. So just download those images or the images and databases and upload it in your Google Drive. And I will, my update will come in a few minutes. So there you will find one simple program and few images. So just keep them in your MATLAB folder, or if you are working online, then in your MATLAB platform online, put those images and that program. One program and most probably 2 or 3 images are there. So just keep those, and that will be enough. Okay then. Thank you. Thank you all.